I apologize in advance if you're the one with the moon in Virgo and you're looking at this, as my room has probably the capacity to give you a headache. And I'm sorry, but it's always been like this. So, that aside, moon in Virgo. If this is your moon sign, it is a moon sign that is governed by what has been traditionally governed by Mercury. And although that's definitely a factor here, I am one of the few, and I think it's a growing group of us that believes that Virgo energy is also influenced by Chiron, the asteroid Chiron, that being the wounded healer. So that says to me a lot about Virgonian energy. Not just having the ability to dissect and to analyze and to piece things together in terms of from a cognitive perspective, but having the wounded healer as an archetype says a lot about the tendency to want to fix or to want to help or to want to remedy and solve a lot of things that will never create a sense of permanent peace and integration for you. As the wounded healer archetype is that of being Chiron, represents the centaur who helped and trained and mentored and healed others, Hercules for instance, but yet could never fix his own wound. If that hits any spots, or if that makes sense to you in any way, it could be that the Chiron rulership has particularly notable influence on your emotional nature. The mercurial part is, like I said, it's definitely there, and I think they go hand in hand as Chiron, as it seeks to remedy and to heal and to guide, it also, I think, gets some support from that mercurial part of you, which is that ability to discern and to see what's not working, to see what's out of whack, to note the imbalances, to understand polarities and remedies. Understand polarities to find remedies. So if your moon's in Virgo, the likelihood to gravitate towards anything that creates a sense of wholeness, balance, cleanliness, hints towards purity, these are the things that might make you feel most content and ward off what seems to be a permanent state of, not anxiety as such, but a feeling that there's always something to do, there's always something to mend or fix or to sort. And yeah, I feel I would love to hear if there's some Moon and Virgo individuals out there that have found ways outside of meditation and outside of occupying the mind through being engaged with breath work or watching the thoughts of the mind. Outside of that, I'd love to hear some Moon and Virgo individuals that don't feel that niggling anxiety towards trying to improve and fix things, and that being parts of your life, being partners, being people in the workplace, being the aspects of society, that being any number of your health, anything that can literally have some sort of physical change to improve it. That to me, I associate that likelihood, I associate so strongly with Virgo energy. And on the polarity being Pisces, being very much still healing energy, but of the psycho-emotional, more abstract, fluid, spiritual kind. And Virgo, the healing part of that being very much herbs, nutrition, physical order and cleanliness. These are the things that can be managed to try and create some sort of balance and structure in your life. So if you're feeling particularly imbalanced, or if there are times in your life where you go through bouts of whether it's anxiety or attacks or any kind of heightened bouts of inner criticism, the ways to try and sort of balance out this tendency is not only the meditation I was speaking of before, and there's so many different types of meditation, but I would say if you gave yourself the time to focus on your strengths, to focus on what you can master physically, these are the things that will give you a sense of competence and will heighten competence. And I think mastering competence is something that's called on by Virgo energy, as it's something that negates that niggling self-esteem or self-worth that's influenced very much by the inner critic, by both Chiron and Mercury working together. Chiron, as it gets older and matures, is one that is extraordinarily wise and helpful, but a young Chiron energy, young Centaur energy, and Mercury together can definitely create some sort of flaws, and mental activity going hand in hand and then going inward can create a lot of discomfort and anxiety. So giving yourself time to reflect, to be away from things that are going to cause you anxiety and inner disharmony, and anything that will grab your attention to be fixed. If you can distance yourself away from that and getting in touch with nature and gardening and the natural world, being around animals, these things all have the capacity to divert your attention towards that which is perfect, and that is nature. You can't beat nature in terms of perfection, even though we think we can. And either that, or being aware of any imbalances in nature and doing what you can to try and work for the health of the natural world, the planet, on a planetary level, your own backyard, whatever the case. If there's too much inner critic work going on, inner criticism, or there's too much disharmony in relationships, again, from noticing the flaws and trying to always fix and improve the actual flaws or the other person, redirecting that energy into something tangible that you can work on, that you can fix and nurture in a way, is something I would highly suggest. If there is ever the tendency for biting your tongue and not wanting to speak your truth, is in not wanting to be seen as a dick or as a nagging person, if you start giving yourself time to focus on, and this is purely when you're in a social setting, focusing on what you appreciate about certain people or circumstances, you redirect your cognitions towards what is actually really working for a person, situation, whatever the case. That has a way of, for the time being, not being so impacted by all the things that need to be fixed, and therefore the want to bite the tongue and creating more inner anxiety. So never repress your need or your ability to see the flaws, but definitely for better connection with others and to feel like you're not imploding with self-criticism and criticism of others just for certain circumstances, focusing on that. And there's always going to be something, especially if they are your friends and loved ones, because they're there for a reason, to focus on those things and to spend other time, if it still comes up, finding ways to be particularly creative, if there is anything that actually needs to be fixed or healed. And then if not, those things will go away, like in time. I'm not saying don't push those things away if they come up, but usually if there's a redirection of emphasis and focus, those things will go away. Research, if you ever get bored or if you feel like things are getting a bit as long as it's not about your health, because I would not research and use any sort of medical online doctor service online medical service to diagnose anything. I would say or guess that at least at some point there's been a sort of hypochondriac reaction towards when things in the physical body aren't working that well, and that's very much because your emotional self, in Moon and Virgo, the emotional self and the physical self are so synonymous. The body, the psychosomatic medicine is very, very, very prominent here in terms of the parallels, because so much doesn't get said, and there's so much discordance with the environment in terms of things that need to be fixed, that the body has a way of instead of changing anything or asserting anything, in that tendency towards reservation, the body has a way of storing that discomfort and imbalance. So understanding that the mind-body link is particularly big for you. Being aware of your sensitivities to imbalances. If you want to be in a relationship from the get-go, letting others be aware of this part of yourself, which is particularly practical and sensitive to any sort of environmental discordance, and then that way your partner might not only accommodate earlier on, and maybe you'll find out earlier on whether they're suitable, if they're clean enough, or whether they can accommodate your needs for cleanliness and for organization. But there's also the ability for your partner to be aware of not being too critical of you, as well as taking criticism is not something I feel you handle that well, and hence the need or the tendency towards perfectionism is particularly high, because you would rather work so hard and perfect something than have criticism thrown at you. So if there's one suggestion I would have around this whole topic of criticism, it would be that what you do, that instead of being perfectionistic in everything, apply that energy just to do as best as you can in the things that actually matter to you, and not the things that your parents thought was the most important or society thinks is the most important, but what you really care about. Perfect those that art. Use your skill set, develop your skill set to build on things that you care about. And I feel like when that happens, the tendency to be perfectionistic about other things fades a little bit, as you don't have the energy for the unimportant things anymore, and you can actually be more relaxed overall. But as long as you don't allow yourself to cultivate a lot of time and energy thinking and researching and learning about something of your actual passion and interest, and developing your skill set, the tendency for self-criticism and criticism towards others and just neuroticism can increase. So in that martyristic tendency that both Cancer and Piscean energy have quite strongly can be prominent here, in terms of, okay, I don't want to rescue others and fix others, will be there. But as long as you're doing that and not doing what you're truly passionate about and creating some sort of self-mastery in something else, there will be some sort of potentially some bitterness or some inward resentment building up, and that never is helpful for any relationship or your physical health. So for now, I think that what I've just said is probably the most relevant in terms of what needs to be said today. So the need for perfectionism, to channel that into something that can create some sort of mastery, definitely something you care about, something you're passionate about, something that you know you can master. Creating some space to not be so impacted by the environment and or any discordances. So that includes time for meditation as well, and also focusing on your strengths and others' strengths instead of just the flaws. It's not positive thinking, and it's coding things in a bubble and the rest has been forgotten. It just, for times, it just allows some sort of rebalancing between seeing everything that's not working and then also seeing what's working. So you're not permanently bombarded with a whole world of things you want to fix. Yeah, I think that's relevant for now, and feel free to add anything or ask any questions below, and I'll be in touch soon.